Hello, health enthusiasts, and welcome to Rev Up Health, your go-to podcast for all things wellness. I'm Dr. Mark Hechler.
And I'm Tandi Hechler. Together, we're here to fuel your health journey with the best of functional medicine and holistic well-being.
Each episode will dive deep into topics that matter to your health, bringing you the latest insights, research, and inspiring stories.
So whether you're on a quest for vibrant health or just looking for daily health tips, we've got you covered.
So let's embark on this journey together and transform the way you live.
Hello, and welcome to today's podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about what we wish we started doing earlier, or what we wish we could have done maybe a little bit different.
Knowing now what we have done, what we would have done back when we were younger, and knowing the way things progress.
And all this to say that in this kind of a conversation, sometimes people can feel a little bit like down on themselves for what they didn't do or, whatever. And the truth is, everyone has their own journey, and so many things that we do and how we get to where we are, we're meant to be that way for our process. So Not really to talk about this in a light of regret or anything like that, but just knowing now the things we do, what do we wish maybe we would have taken a little action on sooner.
And everybody has something to look forward to or look back on. This is not something that everybody's perfect. Every adult out there and kid or young adult knows that there's things that maybe they shouldn't have done, or maybe they should have had a better habit. So that's certainly where we're going today, is that situation. But certainly I think everybody can partake in this in some way. So let's just start from the beginning. There's several little pillars that we come up with that we think of that, okay, well, this is something maybe I didn't do this well enough, or I didn't put much emphasis on this, or knowing now. A lot of this has got kind of a geared towards assuming the natural progression of aging, which starts around 25, 30 years old and slowly declines. So what we can do to offset that decline or slow the decline, maybe is a better way of saying it too. Top of the list is exercise. What would you have done different when you were younger, knowing that, now I can't go up a flight of steps very well, or I get winded going up an incline or walking up a hill, or I can't keep up with others in my social group.
It's never too late. Right. Because my first thing that I wish I had done differently with exercise in mind is I wish that I would have focused on building muscle mass. It's easier to do then. And even though it's a little harder now at age 46, it's not impossible. It's just going to take a little more effort.
Right.
And so that's my exercise thing, is I wish I would have worked more on muscle mass.
And especially with, I think it's more important for females. It is certainly important for men, but women are quite a bit more disadvantaged, I think, actually, if they don't put forth a lot more effort than a man does for building muscle. Males have higher testosterone levels. It's just physiologically, it's easier for a man to be stronger. And that gets to be important for the females, especially when we get to be older age, because we're having sarcopenia, which is a lowering of our muscle tones, if you will, just muscle wasting. And so now females are going to be weaker when they go out for a walk or they're going downstairs. And if you've got a situation where you have problems with the osteopenia or osteoporosis, thinning of the bone, essentially, well, now you're going to have trouble with breaking hips, fractures, shoulders, and things of that nature.
But it is important to know that sarcopenia affects both men and women.
It does. Yeah, because you're going to see anywhere between a 1% and 3% decline per year of muscle. And, whatever you can do to build up your bank of muscle, if you will, leading into older age will help kind of offset, the disabilities with, weakness that come to play.
So I certainly would have told, if I could go back and tell my 25-year-old self, I would say, build muscle.
Yeah. You got to build the muscle. You got to do the resistance training. There's ways to do it special. There's also the nutrition that goes along with building muscle. So, obviously protein and amino acids. So we cover those on other podcasts, but certainly this is more of a broad overview today that we're going to talk about. So.
Yeah. So what would you do differently, or what information would you take for exercise?
I was always pretty active and I enjoyed running. And, I think it's also a little easier for men to be more of that competitive nature to an extent. I think that's being very sexist, I realize. But, all the little boys like to run around and chase the girls, of course, but be competitive, and yes, I'm from a different age group than now, though, too. So it has changed from when I was a little kiddo. And in a nutshell, yes, what I would have done different, personally, I would have been more attuned to cardiovascular improvements. Kind of knew going through life is that, my family history of heart disease, I knew my parents had heart disease. And so I knew, when they started having problems, I knew, okay, well, genetically speaking, I'm probably going to be looking at some of that too. And so I tried to be more proactive, to be more cardiovascular conscious. It made me a little more aware, but I didn't start it early enough.
So how old were you when your parents started having issues with heart disease?
I was probably around 40, actually. Yeah, I was probably around 40 when that started happening. So, and, I didn't run my first marathon until I was probably 45, something like that. So, but at least I started getting more active and started learning as I go. I got to be running more. I got to do something to improve cardiovascular health, VO2 max, as we talk about nowadays. So, but also muscle strength is certainly something too that I wish, I would have been more attuned to. But, people think about muscle strength as more of a hypertrophy, cosmetic, aesthetics, Do I need to have big biceps? Do I need to have big pecs? Things of that nature. Whereas it really needs to be more towards muscles for stability and strength and prevention of trauma and falls. Certainly those big muscle groups are important to try to make those as big as you can to go into adulthood knowing that you're going to lose them.
Okay. So that ticks off exercise.
Yep.
So next thing is nutrition.
Diet. I'll start that one because
you just said the word. I
know. Diet is not
nutrition.
Diets are no, not exist. Nutrition is a better way. Lifestyle nutrition. So better lifestyle and based around what nutrition you can do to help fuel your body. And Skittles and hot tamales and Mountain Dew and Coke is not the thing. And yes, when I first started running marathons, my go-to after a marathon was a cherry Coke. I have no idea why, but I think it just kind of replenished what my body needed, which was sodium and sugar, which I just got through burning a lot of. So, it's something that is just not necessary, and it actually is not really what you should be doing. So, but yeah, I think I would have stayed away from, the alcohol, the sodas and the candies, and even the highly over-processed, devoid of nutrition, ultra-processed foods that are out there. So,
yeah, I think as far as nutrition goes, I feel like I kind of was kidding myself a little bit. Like, I have known bits and pieces of good nutrition for a long time. Like, that's always been kind of on my mind. In fact, I can remember when I had little kids, my family would make fun because I would buy organic or natural. Now, granted, most of those things that I was buying may have been organic or natural, but they were still ultra processed or whatever. But I think what I wish I would have known early, that like started to instill that in my kids when they were young, so that they wouldn't have to kind of fight that habit of
grabbing the bag of Cheetos on the way out or having a snack that's nutritionally not necessary.
Right. And I think as a parent, you think, oh, it's a treat. It's not the end of the world. They're young. It doesn't matter. And I think now looking back, I can say, that probably it really did matter. Mm-hmm. And so the good thing is that our body is always in a process, right? So even though we were doing those things, we have an opportunity to become anew
turn it around. Right. Yep. Literally to turn it around. So, but yeah, that's, and obviously I've been guilty of, the convenience of processed foods and snacks and, eating the wrong things for breakfast or, eating too late at night, eating the wrong stuff at night. So it's something you just need to be aware of. The fact that, what you fuel your body with is what performance you're going to get out of it.
Yes. And that is once you start getting in tune with your body again, because I do think that this is a big issue that we face today, is that we kind of discount that intuition and we aren't listening to our bodies like we really should. And your body tells you when you do those things, almost immediately, or the next morning, you're like, right. Yeah, I don't feel good. And it probably has to do with how I fueled my body yesterday, or lots of other things that we do.
One thing to think about is this kind of takes me into the next topic is sleep, so at nighttime, you have that glass of wine in the evening at dinner or that mixed drink or cocktail or whatever, but you have to think about it, the fact that, do I want to sleep or do I want to drink? So it's a trade-off. You can't do both. Your sleep is going to suffer when you drink alcohol, and sleep is a big thing too. So I know myself back in medical school and undergrad medical school and even first couple of years in practice, residency, it's all there. Residency, it's the lack of sleep and trying to perform the next day is not something that's going to happen very well. But that sleep is a vital, important part of your body trying to heal and repair and take care of the things that you did bad for it the day before.
Yeah. So as far as sleep goes, how has your sleep changed now? And when do you wish that you had, is there a time that you noticed that sleep was as important as it is?
Yeah, I didn't realize how important it really was. I would always be able to, I would get sleepy towards, after dinner, get sleepy sitting on the couch, maybe even take a 15-minute nap or 30-minute nap and boom, wake up and ready to go again. And then what would I do? I would do things or go out and get something done and have to forcibly make myself go to bed at 11, 12 o'clock at night and be ready to go the next morning. It just doesn't happen that well. And you can feel it. You can feel the fatigue the next day. Maybe you're sleepy, you're sluggish, but yeah, now I try to make it a point to get to bed and get some sleep, because knowing that the next day it's going to come, and you can certainly tell, you can feel that if you get in a routine.
Yeah, that is definitely for sure. I can tell when I've had several days of not sleeping well. And
right, with traveling is a key time that really disrupts sleep.
And
changing time zones, boy, does that mess up your circadian rhythm.
Now, I remember when we first traveled together a lot, we would power through and we would leave as soon as we could, and we would come back as very late as we could, just to be able to get in bed and then wake up and go to work the next day. And slowly we kind of transitioned that to where we would have a day of rest when we got back, because it was so taxing.
Yeah.
So you do have to be really mindful of that and recognize that, working into this travel is some downtime and recovery. You need recovery from travel often.
Yeah. You just got to work that into a schedule. You just have to try to do that.
And that goes too for all the things that you pack into a trip, which, it's hard because you're going on vacation and you're taking this time away and you're experiencing a new place and you're trying to cram all of these things into this short amount of time.
Right.
And
it's not to talk about the fact that you're already under stress, your sleep is disrupted, and now your diet, your nutrition is upset too. So all that gets disrupted, and it just continually, it's a trickle down effect. So.
But it is quite interesting though, because we just traveled to the West Coast in Washington, and we went to bed at 7, between 7 and 8 Pacific time, both nights that we were there, because that was our bedtime.
We had to get a certain amount of sleep because we had to get up at 3 a.m. to either catch a flight or get to the race, one or the other. So it was certainly something you have to make sure that you get that time.
Yes.
And I feel way better once I've gotten sleep the night before a race.
But it isn't that long ago that we would have powered through and stayed up and done more activities to experience a new place.
Yeah. And, how much of this also these days, moving on to another topic, what difference has screen exposure with cell phones and internet made for today's population community? Yeah. So, I know obviously me growing up without cell phones and internet, was different than it is today, so there's the screen time has changed the kids' physical activities to an extent. We're not as physically active. You're not out playing until the street lights come on and coming home, so knowing that, I can't imagine growing up with the cell phone in my pocket nowadays as a child.
Yeah, that is a big topic of discussion, and I don't know that I have the answers, but actually
everybody's got an opinion.
Oh yeah, for sure. Everyone has an opinion, and I was actually just talking with my youngest daughter the other day. She babysits a lot, and so she gets to experience how different parents parent their kids around screen time. And, there's some parents who have a very strict, like, this is the amount of screen time you get and that's it. And other parents are like, they don't. And the reasoning behind not restricting, is, if I don't restrict it, then maybe they don't want it as much. Right. It is becoming increasingly difficult.
And they're on their phones. Well, they're not getting sleep. And then they're also having problems with social interaction because maybe they've got some mental mood changes that happen, and maybe they're not in a great mood the next day. So they're a little snappy, but it's a trickle down thing. Obviously everybody out there has their own opinion about screens and phones and internet. So
and I can tell you that it's kind of a running joke in the family that I used to watch a lot of TV.
I did too.
And I would get so sucked in, and the girls would try to talk to me, and I'm just completely gone because I'm sucked into this TV show or whatever. And so I don't watch much TV anymore for that reason, because it still will happen. Like, if I sit down and get into something, I can just be gone.
Right. And having a TV, for years, I had a TV in the bedroom. Watch TV before you go to bed. So it was just a way to kind of slow down, but it's just not a good idea. Yeah. Especially if you really get into a good show, then you just, it's awful.
It's all over.
Yeah.
But I will say too, like, I struggle with social media and my phone. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That is something that I can get sucked into pretty easily. And the other thing, as far as screens and kind of being always available or on, I've trained my kids to expect an answer from me pretty quickly. And if they don't get it, then
there's frustration.
They move on to others to find me.
Right. So, that kind of moves into the next topic of social interaction. Screens lead into social issues, so in the old days, obviously, you had better social environment. Maybe, I don't know, maybe now it's more, okay, well, I can just sit over in the corner and work on my screen on my phone, and then I don't really have to interact. So there's interaction differences, whether it be going out for job interviews or, waiting in line at the restaurant, or something like that. So it all kind of leads into some mental frustration sometimes for people, I feel like, too. So,
yeah, we actually just ran into someone at the airport who was talking about she was organizing a social dance and how fun. I mean, those are things that they used to do all the time to like get people together and having fun and interacting and.
Right. Exactly. So, but, keeping all this in mind, obviously you're looking at all of these different things. What would I have done different? I mean, I grew up in a different time than we do now. So, but, I try to limit, my social screen time, essentially. It's a do not disturb at certain times, and that's it. And I am not going to stay awake at nighttime waiting for the next Instagram update to come on or somebody to text me. No. So I would be different in that respect. But as we go through these things with the exercise and the diet and those types of things, it leads to, okay, well, what do we want to do? We all want to live longer. We all want to live healthier. We want to have a better health span, to be more functional later in life. So then there's the financial part of that now.
If you are living healthy longer, you're going to need more money saved,
more funds
for that. That's another piece.
Yeah, savings, more financial education. Unfortunately, a lot of folks don't, in medical school, you don't get any business information. You don't get any of that. You learn all health related stuff. So, but now with these days, I feel like that if you're going to live longer, you're going to have more funds available. So we're going to have to be a little smarter. What would I have done? I would have saved more money more consistently. That's the problem, I think, some of it too. A lot of folks kind of live check to check or, thinking, okay, well, I really want this thing, so I'm going to work here extra so I can pay for that. And then when that gets bought, then there's always something to replace that. So it's hard to live within a means, live at the speed of money, so to speak.
Yeah, I think certainly my experiences, I mean, Mark and I have different experiences from our previous lives before each other. But, I was a stay-at-home mom for a lot of years. And so, I mean, I didn't even start until my late 20s working at a place that had a 401k, to start putting money away. So.
But yeah, I know that we try to instill in our kids, that saving a certain percentage, you can come with whatever percentage you want. But, when you make this amount of money, this percentage that is going into the savings. And that's not easy. Sometimes you have to draw out of that savings, but hey, at least you have the savings to be able to draw that if you have some type of emergency come up where you needed the funds. So.
Yeah. And I do think that it is very easy to go backwards. If you get a raise, don't take the whole raise, just take half the raise for yourself. It's a lot easier to just pretend like you still don't have that money and keep putting it away.
But what we can do for our own children, maybe this is something that we should have done a little better job at, of course, these things that we talked about. Now it comes down to preparing your children for their future selves. So now we know all these items. We know the importance of exercise and muscle synthesis and improvement in nutrition and eating the right stuff and getting the sleep. So now we kind of have to prepare our own children for these future problems that they may see when they get older. So that's certainly something that I think everyone has to be aware of.
Yes, I would agree very much. And I think it's one of those things where just looking back, we're modeling behavior now, and it's a lot different than behavior that there was 10 years ago.
Right.
So I think the earlier that you can model those things for your kids, the better.
Right. And it's not, maybe you don't have kids, but maybe you model that for your spouse or your significant other or your partner or your parents. That's true. Exactly. So, but certainly I hope that just creates a little bit of curiosity and folks get a little more interested in what can I do, what I've done different, and what can I have my children or my parents or my friends, things that they should know potentially. So it's okay to share information.
Yeah, that's true. And ultimately, it comes down to it's never too late. So just get started.
Right. Get started anytime, at any age. So some of us just start later than others. It's okay. All right. Well, we hope you all enjoyed our Rev Up Health podcast for the day. We hope that everybody got a little information out of what we brought to you today and just kind of stir a little interest and create your own conversations and think about what you can do different. What have you done different? So, all right. Well, we hope you all have a healthy day.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Rev Up Health. We hope you're leaving with some valuable insights to supercharge your health journey.
Don't forget to follow or subscribe to Rev Up Health wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a rating and review.
Have a topic you want us to explore? Reach out to us on social media channels. We love hearing from our wellness community.
Until next time, keep thriving, and remember, your journey to health is a journey to a better you.
Stay well, and we'll connect with you again soon. This is Tandi.
And this is Dr. Mark, signing off from Rev Up Health. Take care.
The information provided in this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. The content is designed to support, not replace, the relationship that exists between a patient and their healthcare provider. Always consult with a qualified healthcare professional before making any changes to your healthcare regimen, including diet, exercise, or treatment plans. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Revelation Health and Wellbeing.